Alright guys, welcome to another video. So we are going to be walking you through this project. We started with a flat surface that had red guard down. We ended up having to remove all the red guard and doing a completely different system, putting slope on that top deck right there so water would shed. Put slope on it, and then we did a stamped overlay, except for these two steps right here. These are actually poured in place concrete with form liners, Denali form liners by Proline. And we did some modeling effects with some stains, and all of this is seamless texture. And then we scored lines in there for individual stones, and we tried to bring all the colors out that you see in those rocks right there down onto the surface. Really unique look. So the cool thing is like I had mentioned, those are form liners for traditional concrete right there. We actually did the same thing on these faces, but with stamped overlay. So pretty in-depth thing to show you guys. You cannot go over 3/8 of an inch or more than a 1/2 inch with stamped overlays. Had to kind of try something new on this, but it seemed to work, and look forward to walking you guys through all these steps, and at the end you should know how to do something just like this. What up guys? All right, so we are out here on another project for MC Butler Construction. This house is absolutely incredible. This front deck right here has red guard down. It has been down 2 years or more. You can see that it's coming up. So our goal here, because this is flat and water sitting on there, is the threshold was cut, so that gives us almost a 1/2 inch right here to play with. And so what we're going to do is put slope on this deck. We're going to be adding our slope first with a certain material. We'll show you what we're going to do there. And then we're going to be doing a stamped overlay. And then once the stamped overlay is down, we will be cutting this into a big tile pattern, and we will be staining it all different colors. We got some vertical faces to do all the way around, and then we've got to stamp these steps right here with traditional concrete as well. Right now, all we're doing is getting this loose red guard up, and then we're going to use our floor buffer, swing machine, whatever you call it, and sand this thing really good. You can see how much of that red guard is coming up. And we're going to sand it, clean it, and then put another coat of red guard and do a sand broadcast. So stay tuned. We'll show you guys some of these steps once we get this sanded. All right, so day 2, we just finished up helping our buddy Cody Dawkins and his guys do a stamped concrete project. And we're back over here. So I'm going to turn this around and show you what we're looking at now. So there's our red guard. It's put down. And that is a sand broadcast. So we threw this sand right into this wet red guard, so that way it's got a good tooth. There's a lot of excess on here now. We're gonna scrape it, and I know this doesn't look like it has any, but it actually got rolled over. And to be honest with you, we've done this with epoxy a lot, throwing the sand in there, but I'm kind of liking rolling the sand in because it's down below it, but it gives it a good tooth for that overlay. This slope makes the bond. So we're gonna scrape the excess off and sweep it off. And Bub and Micah are cutting. You see what they're doing there. We're actually putting expansion up underneath that, so that way our slope material and stamped overlay will have something to go to. All right, one thing I wanted to point out, I wish I would have talked about earlier. So the edge of this got broken off. It's probably broken down to almost right there. You can kind of see there's a big gouge taken out of this. So we actually used this product by Stone Edge. It's called CPR, and it's concrete patch and repair. It's basically a hydraulic cement. And the nice thing about this material is you can go from a 1/4 inch up to 4 inches thick in one lift. So we were able to put this down in one lift and go from nothing pretty much. It was a big chunk taken out, or a 1/4 inch, and then out to, that was probably 3/4 of an inch. Filled that in. This dries. See, look, it's already almost dry, and we mixed that about 15 minutes ago. Guys, quick little run through. We're getting ready to mix. So Mike and Landon, we're using Pro Bond Ultra by Stone Edge. This product right here, you can actually go from 4 inches thick down to a feather finish as well. But the nice thing is it doesn't dry so fast like that CPR stuff I just showed you. It's kind of a slower drying thing. So 1 gallon per bag, and you can always add up to 4.5 quarts. So we're going to mix 2 bags at a time. They're going to get ready to start mixing that. We will pre-dampen our surface just to make sure that this stuff flows nice. A couple of the things to note, you can see that spray painted area right there, and also this little jig. So this jig, I put 2 screws. Since we don't have our gauge rate, got to improvise. So this is actually a 1/2 inch. So we're going to go 1/2 inch high with this slope up against the wall. And then this is a 1/4 inch right here. So we're actually going to put a 1/4 inch of slope from there to there, and then a 1/4 inch of slope out to nothing this way. And then we dropped a 1/4 inch down to there. And then we'll have a 1/4 inch out to nothing all the way around. That's not very much slope, but guys, we can't lower this. We did not build this. We can't control that. Can't control that threshold. Quick little updates. So we ended up going ahead and screeding this out. I didn't do any of the process. I mean, if you're doing something like this, you should be someone with experience with concrete. And so we're basically just, we put our screws in for our heights, just like you would grade stakes with regular concrete. Troweled across there, troweled on the wall, and then where these grade stakes were right here, these screws, we actually cut wet screeds and then screeded down through there. Bub's mixing up this material.
I think we're good, bud.
And yeah, that consistency looks pretty good. And we're gonna work our way across and just finish this. And we'll be done for the day. We are not gonna trowel any more of this. We're gonna leave some of those ridges, not a big deal. We'll scrape those off tomorrow. Maybe sand a couple spots, and other than that, that's a perfect candidate right there for a stamped overlay. We shaved and sanded all the high spots that we needed to, and then we primed the surface with a primer. It's basically a polymer that you put down like glue, and you seal the surface off and you prime it. Now what we're doing with this system, we're using Proline's stamped overlay. So this is their resurfacer, basically micro topping. So you put this down and then you mix up over here. Here's our stamped overlay. So you go wet on wet. This is a wet on wet system. You actually put this down over top of the wet micro topping. So you don't want to run a bunch of it out and the micro toppings start drying up. Luckily it's overcast with the shade. You see we did a section here. We got our micro topping and resurfacer down. While it's still wet, we're going to pour our stamped overlay mix right on top of it. So this goes down at about 3/8 of an inch thick. And I'm not going to go crazy. And what I want to do is I want to work myself across this threshold right here. So this should do approximately 20 square feet a bag. And if you notice, we have a gauge rake. And so this is set at 3/8 of an inch compared from here to here on both ends. So make sure your cams are adjusted, check your measurements, and then all I'm going to do is use this, and this is really important right here. You want to keep this about waist high. You imagine if I go too high or too low, it's going to change the angle, making it more shallow. So you want to keep it about waist high. I'm going to just keep working this material back and forth like this until we get all these holes filled in. The thing is, I want to push this up and get it close to that edge without dunking it up. I'm going to keep working this material right up to our threshold and up to our rock wall. Now Bub's going to start in a second with his trowel. Once I get this really close, he's going to start going flush to that threshold. And just so y'all know, there are some pitch changes here. We have a mark where we stopped. That has a certain amount of fall to there, that mark, and then it falls off. So I want to make sure in that case, my cams will stay right on that pitch change, and then I'll hop over here. If I go in the middle, I will end up with 1/8 of an inch or less. So you have to make sure you pay attention to pitch changes like that. This is a tricky one compared to normal. Pour me a little more right there. Go ahead and dump it. Then once again, we put slope on this material right here, and then we scraped and sanded any high spots and then primed it with 2 coats. And now this Proline stamped overlay is a 2-part system, and it's wet on wet. So I'm using the resurfacer in the red bag right here. It's a micro top, and you pull this as tight and thin as you can. And then before it dries, you run your stamped overlay mix over top of that. So we're using our gauge rake, which is right here. You can see these cams on there that's set at 3/8 of an inch. So that gauges our depth. And you can kind of see where I pulled it along this edge and a little bit right here. And then we are using a trowel up against the edge. So I've got just a regular trowel, and you can see I left it a little bit thick right there on purpose. So I'm going to just kind of work and pat that up underneath there.
And hold your phone at the same time.
That's right. So we're just gonna work that under there and then real light and finesse it. And that way that gives us something to work off of. So once we get all this up under here done, and really all you need, if you have an 1/8 of an inch, you know, say this isn't gonna be perfectly 3/8 by the time you trial it, but make sure out here on these outer edges, you know, it can get a little bit thin. Make sure you got it, I would say at least an 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 would better. 3/8 is even better. That's what we're trying to get this at, but it's never gonna be perfect, especially on the edge out here as it flows over. So anyways, yeah, we'll just trowel this like this, knock it down. We're making sure we get material up under that rock. And now I usually use a magic trowel standing up. I still think it's a lot quicker. We had this for a long time and we just don't have an attachment for it. Make sure your tool is clean. Now we already have a good side over here and a good side over here. I gotta make sure this thing got bent a little bit, so I gotta use the right side. So I'm gonna just use this and just really finesse this around like that. I'm gonna wipe my tool off, go right back over that. So if I put a little pressure on my back side, I'll get rid of that outer line a little bit better. And it doesn't matter because we're gonna get on this a little early to stamp it. So little imperfections and stuff like that will stamp out. You just don't want to get on it too late. Just pull this right on around like that. Boom. And there we go. And that's basically our system. We're going to keep going. That's probably, what is that, Bub? 4 or 5 bags?
Yeah, I think it's around 4.
So we're mixing 1 bucket. This stuff is white, or we got it in white. But you see the color of the stones, and we're going to be faux finishing this. So I wanted a gray base, so we just put 1 ounce of black iron oxide or graphite pigment in with that. It's 1 gallon of water, 1 bag of stamped overlay right over top of this this micro top. And so we're going to get back to work, but that shows you guys that's knocked down, and we'll show you how to do the face here in a minute. All right, so this overlay set up pretty good. It's not all the way hard yet, but I want to show you guys how clean the bottom of that overhang looks right there. So if you come over here, you'll see when we troweled this on, we just put 2 pieces of tape. So you see how sloppy the bottom is right there? Very easy. You want to time this right. So it's set up, but you see it's not super soft. Just get one of these pointed trowels, a sharp one. Start right here and just shave flush right across the bottom. What I do once I get all that shaved across there, just take my time, ride right on the bottom of that board. Now what I may do, just because I got a little bit of shards, is just kind of take my finger and rub that right across there. To kind of soften that hard edge. Now I'll pull this tape. Sorry, I'm trying to hold this with my hand and pull that tape. Now the next thing I do, if this was like painted or hardy board or something and not rock, we would have masked that all the way off. But you notice we're gonna get some drips right down here. Now you can use a wire brush, that would work fine, or you can use a nylon bristle or steel bristle on a drill. And knock a lot of that off of there. So we'll go down through there and hit any spots. If it's any more aggressive, then I'll probably end up taking a wire brush. But see, that's pretty hard. I mean, it'll come off. Now this stuff up here is not from us. That's their grout lines, but any of that'll work right there, or a wire brush. Just make sure you get that off. One of the things I wanted to say is yesterday we would have done all this at one time, but what we just got a late start. We probably didn't start putting that down till probably 3 o'clock yesterday, but we would have still done this top. And if you didn't see, we actually shielded this with a piece of cardboard, so when we did that face, it didn't fall down on there. We didn't want to get anything stuck to that. And, you know, we would have stamped that probably in 2 hours and then went ahead and ran this as soon as we got that face textured, started putting this down. So anyways, just a few little tips. That's pretty much done, and we'll be moving on to the more intricate stuff here in just a little bit. All right, guys, so I think we're on day, what is it, 4?
Yeah, day
Something
4.
like that. Yeah, day 4. So from starting the prep to putting new red guard on, putting slope on the deck, as you can see right there, and then we did the stamped overlay. So I'm gonna turn this around. So we got full depth stamped concrete steps right here poured yesterday, and then here is our seamless texture stamp that we just scored. Borders around the perimeters, those are 16-inch borders all the way around, and then we have a big staggered tile pattern. So we will be staining these light colors, but they'll be all random colors, and then the borders will be a lot darker. And then it steps down right here. Same thing, there's a 16-inch border. There's another band that runs up the middle, and we'll actually put a full depth saw cut in there just for crack control. Same thing with the tile, staggered tile pattern. So one more thing I wanted to show you guys, and then we just got all this cut and everything, and then we're about to wash and clean this off and then go on to an additional step that wasn't expected. Sometimes shit happens that just makes you want to just honestly just scream fuck as loud as you can in the air. But my fault, I should have been more clear on expectations, but the homeowner was expecting more of a bullnose liner right there, a bullnose look. Now you can see it's all scored like this, but it did have texture and was stamped, but it was not bullnose like this. You're very limited to what you can do on a stamped overlay like that, since you can't traditionally go more than 3/8 of an inch. So it's not like we can bullnose that. We all thought it looked good. They wanted that face to match these faces, so now we got to do some extra steps. So the guys ran with the 4-inch grinder through here to give us a good profile for our next steps to bond to. So what we're going to do is wash and clean all this. And we use Dawn dish soap with water. I fill a bucket up and put, I don't know, maybe I squirt it in there for like 2 seconds. So it's not a whole lot of Dawn, and it'll get that liquid release residue and dust off. And then we'll show you what we're going to do after that. But once we get all that clean, we will end up priming this like we did before our stamped overlay. And then we're actually going to use a thin set and go ahead and bullnose this now. Let it dry, and then we'll come back and do another stamped overlay over top of it. But that way it has more of a bullnose look around this edge. So adds a lot more steps, a lot more time. Not a whole lot more material, but it's more frustrating than anything else. But once again, that's my fault. So we can get back to it, get this cleaned off, and then we'll show you how we do that bullnose. Right, guys, I didn't show much of the process, but you saw how the guys scored that face really good, and we used a grout. It's called Pro Light, so you could go up to 3/4 of an inch. And you can see we kind of shaped it, bullnosed it a little bit more. It's hard to tell, but it's got a little bit more of a bull nose, and then when I scratched it, I just kind of put a V down the middle, so when we do our stamped overlay, we don't have to go so thick with it. Like I said, it's kind of hard to tell in this, but it does bow out, which is what we want for that bullnose effect. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to put our stamped overlay. So we could have done this in one shot, but I was concerned with the color being way different on this face than up top. So we're actually going to use the same material on the stamped overlay, do the same little amount of pigment, and then we're going to put that on them. We're going to actually take these form liners right here that we use for this, and once it's set up enough, we're going to press it into there and hopefully get a look like this. So that's the goal. We'll see. Curveball, but we'll deal with it. We've, never done this per se, but we have done other shit similar. But you just got to adapt and deal with it. So I'm going to show you guys what we use, and we're going to go ahead and put plastic over this. It's about to rain here soon, but it's more so than that. We want to keep this hydration in here so it cures properly. And so we'll cover this up and then update you guys tomorrow on the next steps. All right, guys. So the second step of putting more of a bullnose look on the face of our turn down edge up there on that deck. Here's our stamped overlay. And like yesterday, I showed you guys, we used a grout mix that you could go out to 3/4 of an inch. So you saw all the lines that we scored in there, and then cleaned it, primed it really good with a primer, and then we put that grout on there. Kind of, you can see the bullnose on there, and Then we primed again this morning. We scraped off and sanded all this top edge and then underneath it so it was clean. And then we primed it with another acrylic primer. And then we mixed up this resurfacer just like we did on the top. Put a little bit of pigment in there, and the guys are brushing that on. So once again, this is a wet on wet system. Now we're back to the same thing that we did on the top, where we put that stuff on, we let that tack up just a little bit, and then we're ready to put our stamped overlay. So I'm going to get cruising on that. And I've never tried to do this before, just because of the thickness. But what we're going to do is we're going to put this on with a trowel, bullnose it, basically round it kind of like that, and then we're going to take our actual bullnose stamps and try to press that into that. I've never done that. They really wanted to match those steps right there, the faces, and it was just a communication error on my part on expectations. You can't do the same shit with an overlay as you can traditional concrete. So anyways, we're gonna see how it works and we'll let you know. All right guys, we got our stamped overlay mix on here. We basically coated this whole edge, which is almost 60 feet, and decided to give this a try. And there's some spots we got to touch up, but all in all, we're just taking this and putting it up there and hitting it with our hand. Like I said, we have some touch-up spots, but this is going to get us a more realistic look compared to that bullnose liner. So we're just going to put this on. These shorter sections seem to work a lot better. Once again, we're spraying liquid release on there and just kind of tamping this. Try not to let the liner move. And then pull that off, and then we'll come back through here after this sets up and shave this bottom and touch up some of these spots. But all in all, I think it's going to work. And this is what we got. I'm going to show you guys once we peel the tape and shave the bottoms, but all in all, pretty good, man. I mean, it's the same exact form liner texture as these up there. Got as close as we could by using the same material. You could see some of the white grout underneath. So we're going to take some of this leftover micro top in here once we peel the tape, and probably just dip our finger in there and rub just to get some of that white away, even though we're staining it. So you can see the guys are just putting that up there and hitting it with their hand. Not the ideal way of doing this, but it does work. So put this in your little back pocket for future reference if you run into something like this. Hopefully you don't. So anyway, so I'm gonna start peeling this tape. We'll get it cleaned up and show y'all what it looks like after. All right guys, it's Monday morning. Bub and I are out here and just wanted to show you guys how that face turned out. Match is pretty good. Bub is just going through and sanding. We took our finger and kind of pushed this in. That way there was no seam, so we're just kind of sanding that right there. It's a little bit rough, but honestly, all the corners. Here's our full depth concrete pour where the liners were used, and then that's our top edge right there. We've never done that with stamped overlay. It was really important that we were able to get a bullnose with that grout that we used, and then scratch coated it. I think honestly all of it was important, from scoring all of it to making sure that grout had something good to bond to, and then scratching that grout coat, because this stuff you're not supposed to go over a ½ inch without it cracking. So there were a couple spots where this texture is so gnarly that was sticking out what I felt was quite a bit further than a ½ inch, and I just kind of pushed some of it down and just kind of molded it with my fingers. But once again, we've never done this before. On the back deck, it was so high up that we actually just took a different material and went up and down, and it would have been easier to do that, but the color would have been way different. So I wanted to make sure that this right here was the same as that top. And yes, it's slightly different, but not enough by the time we stain all this that it'll blend in, instead of that being a super dark gray with like a mortar mix or something. So we're just going around hitting some of these spots. We will have to wash off the liquid release here. We'll probably rinse all that down anyways, and then we have to finish this cut. So that border stone coming through here needs to continue right down this face, and then the same thing over here. So I mean, you know, and if this was done with stone, there would have to be a broken seam. So I would love to 45 this, miter it to here, but looking at these steps, coming up, I think it would look nice at the entrance of the house to have that be one stone, and then that would be an edge of a stone, and the same thing over there, and it kind of adds the different colors, and I think looks a little better instead of having one continuous color across there. So all these colors we're using are blended colors. So I like to make a concrete base color. That's why you see light stone base. So that's a real, even though this looks gray, let me see if I can find, right? Shit, I don't have any on here, sorry, but that is an actual like concrete gray color. And now people think that concrete is just gray. Well, it's not. If you try, you can make 50 shades of gray and none of it will match concrete. There is no true gray in nature. In order to get a concrete gray or a stone gray, you have to add a little bit of yellow and a little bit of brown. Just a little bit goes a long way, and it makes more of a natural stone gray color. So all these are actually blended. And if you notice, what we did here is we dipped white paper in with these. So this is cappuccino and bluestone, and we dip white paper in there so we can actually see. I know it's probably hard to tell on here, but same thing with one part white, one part dove, and a splash of black, and we get that color. This isn't the best because the sun's so damn bright, but you guys kind of see what we did there, and you can see the color difference. So that way, when we're filling these up, I can kind of pick what I want to put down on each stone. Now, we already sprayed certain stones with our light base natural concrete color, and you can kind of see, it's really tough to see, but like we did this corner right here going out and just modeled it, and then we did that back corner over there and kind of modeled it. Let me go around, see if you can pick up some of this a little better. These shade lines make it tough, but yeah, so looking right here, hopefully you guys can see this. There's a little bit of variation in color here. So you can see from where I'm standing, you see there's some darker color right there, some darker color right there, some darker color right there. So what I do is I go through and I'll put a piece of tape like that on each corner that I want to color, or the whole stone, just depending on the look you're going for. In this case, we're ready for our next color. So we've already stained. You can kind of see the variation of that stain spraying with HVLP gun. That's easy to do. Well, now we're going to take our next color and just blend that into that. So we didn't put anything on this stone. So I'm going to go from this corner and fog it out. And you can do different designs like this. I mean, it's pretty cool what you can do with an HVLP gun. So we actually use these Masonite, the cut Masonite. I like it because this side, it absorbs the stain so it doesn't run off very good. It's really quick to move the shields around, and you just surround your stones. So my phone is about to die, which sucks. So we may get another color or two on. I'm going to let this charge, and then I'm going to show you guys what we're looking for when we're spraying and show you what we do with an HVLP gun. So the shade lines are going to make this really tough to see with that sun and without it, but I just wanted to show we are using this cut Masonite as shields. As I said, I really like to use this side because it absorbs really quick compared to the other side that's slick. So Bub and I are just working our way across this, and we're blending colors together. We started with a light gray and then transitioned. We went to a medium gray and then started transitioning into taupes. And now we're into like, we went to beige. Now we're into more of like a tan. And then eventually we'll go, you can see the natural color here. Like I said, the shade lines suck, man. They really do. But so what we do is I go around, and I wanted to show you, I put tape where I want to spray. So I know we actually just pull, once we shield this right here, then we'll pull a tape and stick it on there, easy enough. And then we just kind of spray from the corner out, or maybe the whole back stone, and fade it out this way. And so this little compressor, we didn't bring our big one, but for a job this small, but I just wanted to show you guys kind of what we're looking for. So I'm going to hand this to Bub, and he's going to show just a quick thing of what we're looking for when we spray. All right, so you can't see this actually shield is covering this stone, but what I like to do is alternate. So right under this, let me just move this real quick. You can see this is gray over here, right? Well, I like to make sure my grays are touching the tans or browns on the opposite stone. I do not like to have browns touching browns. You're going to have some of that, but just try to alternate that a little bit. So we put this down right at our grout line that we scored. And now I'm just going to take and just fog this on. So spray a little, look a lot, As the Mr. Famous Cody Dawkins always said, it's hard to fix something after you put too much on. But you can spray a little bit, and look, I'm just gonna kind of fog into that. Just blend my way right into it. Now this corner is gray, I may leave that, and that is champagne, which is a beige. So I'm gonna hit this corner pretty aggressive, and then I'm gonna just blend it out. Now you could do linear lines like tiger stripes, which we do a lot. I just kind of wanted to show you guys some of the stuff we were looking for here. Now that that's done, I'm gonna pick this up, and I know the shade lines suck, but now you can see a distinct difference between the colors in that stone and this stone. That's what we're looking for. Once again, up here.
Yep.
Just put this down, simple as that. And I like to tape off where I know we're gonna spray. And I'm gonna just hit this corner. I'm probably gonna have to turn the compressor on, but try to spray a little bit.
You can see it now.
I'm just gonna fog my way out right into this darker gray. I know it's hard to see, but one of the toughest things about doing this is looking for what it's gonna look like sealed. It's really easy to get too bold. When you seal everything, a lot of y'all know it enhances stuff so much that you can really go too bold with this very easily. So you really want to keep it subtle. If you notice, I did this corner here, and then there's another tan brown color right there. So I left this gray, and it's just a nice good separation between the stones. So we're gonna keep going here. We've got, was it about 5 or 6 colors?
Yeah.
I think 6 colors so far.
Yep.
Probably gonna do 1 or 2 more colors, just fog it around a little bit, and then we'll show you guys the next step, dude. It's really a cool technique. All right, guys, so it is day 2 on staining. As I had mentioned earlier in this video, for some reason, stamped overlay does not want to, the stain does not want to stay as good as regular traditional concrete, stamped concrete or whatever. So we typically have to do this either really thick, or even better, do it in 2 coats. And it's nice because you're building the layer color, so you can get a lot of variation for a nice natural look. So if you look across here, we've started our second application. We've started once again at our light grays, went through all the grays, and we're gonna walk across here. We haven't gotten into the tans and browns yet, but you can see all the modeling effect in these stones. Just be careful where you walk here, Bub. It's
Yes,
wet.
sir.
But you can see the nice, come on up here, you can see the nice variations in here. And if you look at these stones right there, you know, we're pulling the colors out of all these rocks. And so I just wanted to show you guys, kind of into our last gray color here. This is actually just a natural color. It's called Dove, and it has a little bit of a taupe, but kind of a bluish gray as well. So I'm looking at what seems to need a little stain right in here. You can see the nice tans and browns and champagnes. I may have to hit a little bit up there, but I'm just gonna hit and just lightly spray across this and kind of fog my way out. So that way it just blends out really nice across there. And I can go a little heavier right here on this edge, but the main thing is to fog out, lift your gun up, and kind of let it just disperse across that top. You don't want to just spray straight lines, so I'm just really gonna just kind of fog my way out like that. And then we'll let that dry, and now we're gonna start getting into our tans and browns, and we'll show you guys what it looks like here in just a few. All right, I just want to give you guys a little update. So what we did is on these borders, we wanted them to be darker. So we used 2 colors primarily. We used dark walnut, and we used a color called Boulder. It's like a charcoal color, but it has a little bit of a greenish hue. I actually really like that color. And here's our tiles. And like I said, we have one more step to do, but you can see that band running up through there and the borders. This one turned out really nice. You can see the Boulder color there, and then the dark walnut. It's really got some cool effects to it. And then we went ahead and did this one. And we're getting ready to do the actual concrete steps. These were poured in place concrete steps. All right, guys, I keep running out of time on my phone. But once again, anyways, this is the stamped overlay we did. And then we were able to get that same texture there as we did on this rock face. And those are 3.5 inch full depth concrete. So we're about to stain these 2 stones like the borders. And you can see we got a lot of, hope it shows up. For some reason it doesn't look like it is, but we got a lot of variation. We ended up adding a 3rd color to that. It was like a charcoal color on the borders. And we still got to do our other effect, which is really a cool effect if you're not an artist. So we're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to go ahead and stain these steps. I'm going to show you one other one over here we did. Here's one more that we did. So this is basically a landing for a set of metal steps that are going to come down right here. And I'm going to see if I can turn this thing around. I'll show you guys. Hopefully you can see that. It's right up a rock face, and then we did this face right here. So anyways, we got that stained, and there's our patio over there, front porch. We're going to get back to it and stain those concrete steps, and then I'm going to show you guys some of the process with that. Alright guys, we're going to show you a little bit of the staining when it comes to the borders. So basically we started with our boulder color, and we went through and I just randomly hit some certain spots, really trying to mimic natural stone. It's very hard to tell. Once we seal it, it'll stand out a little more. You can see the dark brown as our walnut, and then this is our boulder color. Same thing here. If you look down here, you can see this darker color is our boulder color. This is the bare concrete up here, the almost white look. And then if you come down here, you'll see the same thing. The darker that we have on there now, that is our boulder. So what I'm gonna do, you can see where I left the bare concrete. When I spray my first coat of stain, I'm really trying to model this and kind of look for, sometimes we'll do tiger stripes, sometimes we'll just do random ins and outs. So in this case, I'm actually just gonna spray the opposite of the boulder. So I'm gonna spray up under here, and just, like I keep saying, spray a little bit, stand back and look until you get a good eye for this. So I'm gonna run this color kind of right down the middle, and I'm gonna blend it together. I'm going to go darker away from this color and then blend it right into it. And that really kind of gives us a nice, cool look. Kind of blend some of this out. You want to keep this trigger going the whole time, and then what you're going to do is when you barely squeeze this, material will come out, and you can always adjust how much pressure you have as far as air, and then this is your fan, and this is how much stain or paint's going to come out. So we're basically just faux finishing this. Hopefully y'all can pick up all these colors on that top one right there, but it looks pretty cool, man. But anyways, we're going to get back to it, and then we'll show you guys the next step, which is pretty unique. But it's a really cool look, so we'll show you how we do that. All right, so if you want to take your project up a few notches, I wanted to show you guys this. This is a really cool way to get a cool speckled effect, very easy to do. And so what we have here is boulder that we used on the edges of the borders, and then we have hazelnut, and then we have dark walnut right there. So how we got that effect is very simple. We took kitty litter, non-clumping kitty litter, and you can see here I did linear lines like that, so that'll give us kind of like a tiger stripe effect. So you can imagine where the kitty litter is sitting, no stain will get there. Where it's open, the stain will go in. So you can see I have less here, more random open holes, and then out there it kind of covers more, so that way that will soak it up. So it'll kind of start a little more aggressive and then go out and kind of just speckle away. And so we'll do one color at a time. And I'm actually going to blend boulder here and then dark walnut here, and they'll kind of blend together, and you could spritz a little water on there too. But anyways, we're going to get staining. We just have all of our stains right here in this pump up sprayers, and we're going to get going. It's a cool way to add some extra effects if you want to do that. All right guys, so here's our last step right here of faux finishing. This is a really cool technique, and we're going to show you guys how easy this is just to add several different notches to your job and take it up. So you see we have kitty litter down right here, right? So what we're doing is we're actually taking the stain, and I just wanted to point out this back here is completely different the way it's laid out than this. So we actually did this for like a tiger striped or like lime type of effect, and back here we have more of a speckled effect. Now we did boulder on that, and then back here we're going to do walnut, and it's just kind of like whatever accent color you feel like would go good with whatever's there. So I'm going to take this, and this is dark walnut, and I'm going to spray it down, And once again, that kitty litter, wherever the kitty litter is, that's kind of the negative. That keeps your stain from touching the undertone of the stain underneath it. So I'm just going to kind of work my way out. And if you notice, it kind of dissipates out here. So I want it to be heavy in that corner and then work our way out. I'm going to get in front of this door a little bit and just come out here. Now, what I'm going to do, like I said, that back is pretty heavily diluted. Now, what we're going to do is just take water and we want to soften the edges or any overspray. So, very simple. Right here, like where we stopped at, I want to kind of soften that. So we'll spritz a little water and that's going to dilute that stain to where it goes out from a darker color to kind of nothing and blends away. And we're not going to touch that. Same thing here. So say we got some of this stain on this stone. We did the same thing here. We got some of that stain on that stone. It's very hard to shield this when you have kitty litter down. You do not want to step this shit in because it can be a pain in the ass to get off or scratch your stain. So if you get a little bit on there, just spritz a little water on there and it'll kind of dilute it enough to where you're not going to notice. So if you walk across there, you'll see kind of what we've done so far. We've done boulder and we've done walnut, and then we're going to do one more color called hazelnut just randomly. And then we're going to wait for this to dry, blow it off, wash it off, and then we'll be ready for antique and have a couple more steps and we'll be finished up with this project. Yeah, so we got our 3 speckled effect colors. Once again, it was boulder, dark walnut, and then hazelnut. So you can see we randomly did kind of different designs. Some were like spotty. Got some tiger stripes in this, which we did with the stone stains underneath it anyways. And we got hazelnut right there. We got some on every stone, so really random. This is scary as hell, I'm not gonna lie. So all of this stain we take, you know, it's diluted. With this stain for full strength is 1 quart of stain to 3 quarts of water, and then we take and mix that 50-50. The shitty part about this is you have no idea what it looks like underneath. I mean, it literally, you don't know the contrast between it, so it's very intimidating to do this. Like I said before, I would do a sample just to make sure you're not too dark, but we still have no idea what it's going to look like. And it is starting to rain, so we're going to start cleaning up, and then we're going to let this dry, blow off everything that we can, and then we'll wash it down and see about getting antique on it, so that way we can hopefully seal tomorrow after we're going to color all the grout lines. So after we get that done, then this job will be complete. All right, it's about 7 p.m. and we got a bad storm on radar about to show up. So I just, we let this dry, and now we're just going over with a blower and blowing off all the excess, and you can see our speckled effect, how we get pretty neat look. We still got to wash it, so there's a lot of kitty litter stuck to it, but just to show you guys, kind of like opening up a present on Christmas morning. Alright, so we have got our stuff washed off. You can see our speckled effect in different colors. There's still kitty litter stuck to it, but I'm going to go ahead and blow this off just to show y'all what it looks like. Guys, we are back, and man, did we get a ton of rain out here. There's still rain in the forecast. Bub got here a little bit before me, and he basically washed off all that kitty litter residue. And you can see some of the speckled effects that we got. Looks pretty neat. I'm gonna walk around, and you can really see the colors, the movement in these border colors when it's wet like that. There's some more of the speckled effects. Some of them are a little more subtle than others, but that's okay. And it's cool to think that this is traditional stamped concrete, full depth, those 2 steps, and that's stamped overlay, and that really matches pretty good, even though this border is drying, and this is dry up here, but you can see that here, you can see the nice kind of speckled, there's our like kind of zebra stripe. And now the next step is we're going to antique this, but I mean, overall, man, I think these tiles, they all have individuality, and that's what we're going for. All right, guys, so Bub has came this morning and washed all the kitty litter off. It looks really nice. We showed you guys the two-tone effect. Well, multi-tone effects using the kitty litter. So now we actually have, this is called Midnight Gray Antique, and we did about 4 gallons of water to only a scoop and a half. I don't want this super dark. So you can see up here what we've already done. We're keeping this mixed up in here really good. And we're just gonna kind of slosh this around on there. And you can see after about 20 or 30 seconds, it's going to find the low spots and settle in there. See how that kind of doesn't have much? I can either sprinkle a little bit or I can push some up. Now see how heavy that is? I'm gonna just barely touch that surface and just wipe a little bit of it out. And like I said, after about 20 or 30 seconds, it is going to find the low spots, and that's as close to what you're gonna see it sealed like. So keep an eye on them stones after 20 or 30 seconds. Make sure there's no puddling or bare spots. Try to keep it as consistent as you can and just go across this whole thing. All right, guys, so now we've antiqued the top. We use Midnight Gray, and we put about a scoop and a half in with approximately 4 gallons of water. With this liquid antiquing, you're supposed to do 1 scoop per gallon. So we actually cut that way down just so it wasn't so dark. Wanted to show you guys, I see a lot of people struggle with these faces, which we did as well for a long time. To get it to match the top where the antique is in the low spots of the texture here on this form liners, it's tough to do. Because if you do the same system on the faces you do up top, it just runs off. So what we finally figured out after a lot of trial and error is we have probably a half a gallon of water in there. And I put about 4 or 5 scoops of antiquing. So it is almost like paint. You can see if I brush it on the stick right here, how heavy that is. So I'm going to actually take this and I'm going to start down here. And it's going to drip on these rocks and we'll sponge it off. I'll show you that. But I'm going to press this in here like I'm painting the whole rock, the rock face. So we're just going to go right down through here and we're going to make sure that we press that antique down into the low spots of the stone. Now we're going to run across this whole edge and we're going to wait maybe 2 minutes and we'll be right back and show you guys what we do to make this look as realistic as possible. All right, guys, it's probably been about 2 or 3 minutes. It's really going to depend on your temperature right now. It's overcast. It's not very hot. It's going to be a huge difference and a deciding factor if you're in the direct sunlight. But basically, we want this to just kind of sit on there enough to stay. And then all we're going to do is take a damp sponge, just really damp. I can hardly bring any water out of that. And I'm barely going to touch the highs on this. And if you notice, I don't know if you can see that, but it's exposing our color, that brown color back through. Now, this isn't the best example of how this works, but you can see it wiping that off just because these borders are so dark. But you can do this on any color stamped concrete. You can almost see me wiping that off just the highs, which leaves that antique and the low spots of the form liner. It's a really nice way to bring that realistic look back to where this matches the top, and that's our goal. So our antique is pretty much dry. We got a couple little wet spots here and there. Just wanted to walk through here and show you guys. Now this looks really light colored. It looks like a very light gray, but once we seal it, this midnight gray will really pop. It'll really have some dark colors in it. But all in all, it's pretty good. Got a couple wet spots. We got our air movers on there trying to dry it. But you know, the antique is probably something like that color gray. So it really should kind of marry all the colors together really nice. And what we are about to do next is we have the liquid antiquing, the same stuff we used to antique this, but we ended up making our own color. So this is light gray, and I actually added a little bit of taupe. And you guys have heard me say before that there is no natural gray in the world. Like all the natural gray is man-made. It takes, because of the sands and mortar, there is no natural gray in nature. Natural gray with just black and white is man-made. You don't really see anything natural gray. So what we did is we took light gray liquid antique and we added a little bit of taupe to it. And our goal is to match the mortar lines here. Kind of see it's pretty close. I mean, I could have tweaked it a little bit more, but it really just depends on if the mortar's wet or not. In different spots it's going to be a little different, but it's a pretty close match. And now we mix this up really heavy. See, I probably got, God, I'd say ½ inch of water in there and probably 2.5 to 3 scoops of antique. So this is almost like a paint. You can see how opaque that is when I go up the side with it. So we're going to start brushing all these grout lines, and we're just doing where we scored with the grinder, just to really add some definition and make this pop, and then that'll be it before we seal. I'll be honest, this is a pain in the ass. I think on the back, I can't remember, I think we may have went 3/4, and I think that's 1/2 inch, so it's very difficult to brush. So I ended up switching to one of these, and all I'm doing, hang on, it's kind of a pain in the ass to do, but especially one-handed. I'm going to see, so I'm going to do one side and try to hug this one side right here, and cut that in. And then I'll go, you see I got some on the top right there. And then it dries darker, as you can tell. And then I'll go back and do the other side. And then just for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and stop and show you guys. It's very simple. Just dripped. It's so damn hard to do shit one-handed. But you can see I got some on the top, so we have a damp rag right here. And I'm just going to kind of lightly get that off of there before it dries too much. And I'm going to have to go clean my rag again in a second, but you can see that comes right off of there. Let's try to keep that clean and natural looking. I mean, you know, if you're going to grout these or mortar them, you would get a little bit in a couple spots, but you don't want to see it all over the place. And if you do get a little bit, I'd rather it be like where the low texture is. But as long as you don't have it all over, it's looking pretty nice. So we're going to keep going. Bub's down on this side, working his way this way. And you can see that difference right there. Really outlines things nice. The grout lines are done. Antique is pretty dry. Just wanted to do one more walkthrough before we seal this thing. We're going to let it sit about an hour since we put antique today. I'd love to do it tomorrow, but this stamped overlay cures a lot faster than traditional stamped concrete, so we're going to keep fans on it. The sun's starting to come out, but I just wanted to show you guys how it looked with them grout lines. Stands out a lot better. Obviously went all the way down the faces of all these, and yeah, we'll let this dry about an hour with fans on it, and I think we'll mask off and go ahead and get this baby sealed, and we will show you what it looks like at the end. Guys, we got rain coming in, so we did all of our faces and our borders. Bub just sealed the middles. We actually just, you can see we taped the bottom like that, and then we just used cardboard or shields. So he's got a coat there. You can see what he has sealed, all the colors becoming vibrant, and what he hasn't sealed where he's standing. Go ahead, Bub. Watch the colors change. All right, work your way out this way, Bub. Stop. Okay. You're going to cover your...
Oh, I was going to
track
go that
out.
way.
No, come down the steps.
Okay.
This is dry.
Ready?
Nice even coats over that. You may have to step over. There you go. Very nice. All right, one coat down and one more to go. We're going to go seal our other couple little steps, but man, got some really nice looks in these borders, and honestly just all the stones, and that's just one coat of sealer, so really turning out nice. All right, guys, so that's a wrap. Hope you guys learned something. Let us know in the comment section if there's anything else that you would have done different or you'd like to see us try next time. So just to recap on the project, we got poured in place concrete stamped steps with form liners, and then we added slope to this deck with 1.5 inch of slope here and then a 1/2 inch over there. Put form liners on that and stamped it in. Scored this into a big tile pattern, and you take your shoes off, Bubby, you can come up. Just really wanted to show all the colors in here. If you look at the stones on the walls, brought some of those colors down into here to create a unique look. And just got second coat of sealer put down. And all in all, this is a really unique project. You're never going to see another one like it. But the cool thing is it's endless of what you can do. So appreciate you guys watching. Remember to like and subscribe. It helps us along.